here we are at the very beginning of 2022. Probably not the start that many of us have expected. As I mentioned before, there's a donation thing in the chat screen if you'd like to throw some coins my way. Okay, so I'm going to hit you with the bad news straight up. There is bad news. Pretty much look around. You can see there's something going on. And basically it is the ongoing Saturn square Uranus. I know where I live, supermarket shelves are pretty empty. And that is due to supply issues. The thing with Saturn in Aquarius, that's the rules. We've had a lot of rules thrown at us over probably the past 2 years. Saturn's still in Aquarius for quite some time to come. So there's going to be like rules to negotiate. Probably everybody's heard about poor old tennis player, Mr. Djokovic, locked up with some refugees in Melbourne because his visa wasn't quite right. That is, you know, Saturn in Aquarius at work. Rules are rules, and the rules are the same for everybody. Just ask the Prime Minister. But, you know, it's nice when governments get their act together and they all work together. So that's the Uranian side of things that, you know, technology apparently has failed them in this instant. So Uranus in Taurus is, again, a continuing thing. And while we've just had that last perfect square between Saturn and Uranus in December, you can see that the results of that are going to be continuing with us for quite some time. So you've got that rules freedom dichotomy, and also trying to balance, attempting to collective interest with individual discomfort. And I would say there's not a person on earth that has not experienced discomfort. Taurus is a sign that loves comfort, and Uranus comes in and just kind of pokes you with a cattle prod and gets you off your butt and going, well, why are you comfortable? Are you comfortable at the expense of other people, which is the Aquarian egalitarian side of things? And ultimately, that's what rules are meant to do, help us cooperate. But there is some argy-bargy happening between those two, you know, sides of things. So if this is impacting your chart, and it will if you're sort of around those middle degrees of fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So those are the signs to keep an eye on in your chart, and everybody will have those in a different house somewhere. So with a square, you can't just opt out and pretend that it's not happening, particularly if a personal planet or an angle in your chart is being activated. You're kind of forced to deal with it. And because fixed signs are so fixed, they like really dig their heels in. It's harder to do. So you really got to be conscious about it and make a conscious decision not to kind of be driven by old ingrained patterns. So I've got some suggestions there about how to like bring some ease around these issues, you know, in your life. So collaboration and cooperation is really important, and kind of being open to alternate points of view. Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. While I use traditional rulers, like Uranus and Aquarius share some significations. So there could potentially be some space in there for you to create ease if you innovate, if you are mentally agile, if you kind of like think the same things all the time and just assume that everybody else thinks the same as you, like that is kind of like a good way to turn that fixed square into like an earthquake in your life. Not ideal. Much more to like flow with the changes and cause minimal disruption. So because Uranus is in Taurus, and I think most obviously, you know, looking at supermarket shelves and supply chains at the moment, Taurus is a fixed earth sign, so it's those tangible commodities that are being disrupted. Uranus is the planet of disruption. So if you look at where those continuing surprises are going to be felt, you're looking at land and environment. Climate change isn't going away, although, like, you know, we've got other worries, perhaps more immediate, but you can't kick that can too far down the road. Work and labor, that is a major thing. You've got sort of stuff like the Great Resignation happening. And also too, there's in Australia in particular, there's low wages generally, like people's wages haven't kept pace with inflation. That's a real thing. And also too, rights for workers, with people not being able to travel quite as freely between countries. There's been disruptions to low paid foreign workforces. Like you saw that in the UK with their fuel crisis a while back. A lot of European truck drivers would come over and drive their trucks and move their stuff around. And then all of a sudden there was not enough people delivering fuel, and the bowsers ran dry. I don't know if you've ordered anything from overseas at the moment. I know there's a thing in the US with postal workers not sending stuff to Australia. That was a bit annoying in the lead up to Christmas. So you've got like things like that happening. I had a table, new dining room table that was coming from Southeast Asia, and they had it ready, but they couldn't get a shipping container. There was a worldwide shortage of shipping containers. So there's that. And of course, like, you know, with interruptions to logistics, food and resources, even locally, can become quite a bother. So you need to kind of like, I guess, prioritize what's truly essential. And that's a very Saturnian idea. So you can see that disruption is caused by Uranus, but, you know, the solution is Saturn. Like, what's truly essential in your life? Like, how can I, I wouldn't say adapt my brain, but kind of change my mindset to bring ease around this obvious physical problem that's manifesting in my life. So what we lose in consistency and predictability, which are very much loved themes by our beautiful Taurus, so that is being disrupted by Uranus. That is going to continue in 2022. And there will continue to be innovations, largely out of necessity. Necessity is a very Saturnian word. So like that, you need to do it. So you have to adapt, you need to innovate. Working from home is a kind of a old hat classic example. And that continues. Work is kind of like that. And there's that work and labor thing happening again. Oh, suggestions for... Okay, so as commented, suggestions for Ascendant in a fixed sign. Collaborate and cooperate, and don't get too fixed and tunnel vision. And that's the same for pretty much wherever you've got those fixed planets. So if you've got a mutable sign rising, you're going to have the fixed planets in the 2nd and 8th houses, and the 12th and 6th. So it's like a work money thing. So everybody gets this somewhere. And we've been living with this Saturn square Uranus for a while. So you can see it happening. The Taurus Scorpio axis will have other things going on, which we're getting to. But this story is still pretty major for everybody. So I'm just going to pop out of the PowerPoint slide because, you know, I love taking technological risks. And I'm going to put up some photos, charts that I've simplified. How do I do that? Stop share. Let's try that. And now we'll share a different screen. This is probably, like, don't freak out if you don't look at astrological charts, but this gives you a visual so you can see. Now, can you see the chart that I've put up there? We got that? Yes, we do. Thank you, Tara. You're like my super assistant there. Oh, thanks, Carolyn, for that thumbs up. Okay, so you can see here, this is, well, it's not today. Why have I picked that date? Oh, because Uranus is stationing direct. So we're really feeling the Uranian end of the square at the moment. And you can see that Uranus is at 10 degrees of Taurus. So he's been lingering there. So if you've got planets or points over here at 10 degrees or around 10 degrees Scorpio, the mid degrees of Leo, or, you know, around here in Aquarius, they're major action points and will continue to be major action points throughout 2022. And you can see that Saturn's past the degree of Uranus, past. So the Saturn's moving away from the square to Uranus, and like, so they're essentially separating at this point. We're going to jump forward to like a few stations throughout the year, so you can just kind of get an idea of how close and continuing interactivity these dudes are. By dudes, I mean planets. So I think in the middle of the year, we find a bit of ease. You've got like, what is that? Oh gosh, mess in my head, like 9 degrees between the planets. That's getting pretty wide for a square between outer planets, but obviously like they're still aware of each other. Uranus and Saturn can still see each other between these fixed signs, and around June, Saturn's the one that's concentrating energy in the late degrees of Aquarius. I'm looking at that and making a little mental note for June for myself. That's talking to something in my chart. So like any planets or points in anybody's chart that has got these fixed signs are all active, and you know, even if it's just sitting quietly there and say like, you know, your 9th house and your 3rd house, it's gonna happen. All right, so that's June, that's the Saturn station. So Saturn's kind of like where the energy is in the square mid-year. In August, Saturn is only moved 1 degree from 20 to 21. So that's still like, you know, very active. Actually, it was 25 to 21. And hello, we've got Uranus on 18 degrees. So these planets are very active and still very close. That gap's closed to 3 degrees there into the square. And then finally, this is the last Saturn station of the year. Also like Mercury, Uranus is retrograde at this point, and will go direct in early March 2023. So look how close that is. That's like a degree apart. So like that's just waiting for the Scorpio season, which has begun right about then. So the sun will be over here in Scorpio, and probably some other planets too, and that will trigger this square, because the sun takes like 1 day, so it goes boom boom and like kicks this off all over again in October. So yeah, worth keeping an eye on that in your chart, and also during Taurus season, Leo season, Scorpio season, and Aquarius, which is coming up pretty soon. Okay, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint because I am techie. I think I gave the wrong house layout things earlier. All right, but we're back into this, and let's move on. Oh, okay. I did want to flag, just before I do, I've written myself some helpful notes, that Mars in particular will agitate that square. So Mars is in Aquarius between the 6th of March and the 16th of April. That will stir the pot. Mars is an adverse to conflict and strife. And then Mars will be in Taurus between the 5th of July and the 20th of August. So that, you know, there's saber rattling, like, I'm getting cranky with you, I'm angry. That can happen in your personal life. There's some kind of conflict, and of course it can also happen between countries. Yeah, things like that. All right, we are moving on to eclipses. And so if you are Scorpio rising, anybody else Scorpio rising or Taurus rising, again, hive of activity in 2022, because the nodal axis of the moon has moved into Scorpio and Taurus. So we've had like a lot of activity around fake news, media, yada, yada, with the Gemini Sagittarius axis. But now we're shifting away from that realm of ideas to security. So you can, I don't know if you're seeing a bit of a trajectory, a bit of a theme here. So Taurus looks for security, stability, and reliability, largely in the physical world. And that's what those themes of comfort again come up. So it's around material resources, having enough money, having enough food in the pantry, having a sustainable relationship with the environment and the earth in general. And because Taurus is ruled by Venus, women's issues are gonna, and also gender issues more broadly, are going to continue to be a prominent theme. So at the other end of the spectrum, it's not a spectrum, it's a dragon, and it's cut in half. You've got the dragon's head, which is the North Node, or Rahu. It's hungry. So you've got a hungry mouth, but it doesn't have a stomach. So like it never fills up. So it's insatiable and it's driven, and it can see what it wants and it goes after it. So Rahu's sort of associated with worldly success and acquisition, grabbing the things. So I think hoarding could possibly be an issue for some people around that time. I guess people have been doing it with toilet paper and now rapid antigen tests for something topical here. And then you've got the dragon's tail, which is the Scorpio end of the thing, and that can't see, it can't think. So it's very unconscious and instinctive, and it just can't thrash around aimlessly. I sometimes think of it in a weird little way, like, you know, the lizards that drop their tail, and it just kind of twitches, and like it just doesn't, like it just does what it does out of instinct until it does it no more. So this is associated with spiritual liberation and release. So wherever you have Scorpio in your chart, there's a letting go and a spiritualizing quality happening. So in Scorpio, your emotional sensitivity and need for control, those issues are going to like rise up from the unconscious. And if you kind of hang on and try to keep them, they're likely to cause you trouble, particularly around eclipse time. Also hidden things, shadow, underworld activities. I'm thinking like organized crime, you know, backroom deals in business, that kind of thing. More tangibly, water and wetlands could come to the fore. Scorpio is associated with like swamps and things like that, like water that doesn't move, so stagnant water. So if you've got a wetland in your area, show it some love, and the dragon might be a little bit kinder to you. Also sexuality and exploitation, which kind of speaks to those gender issues that the dragon's head is very aware of. So you can see that kind of how they're linked, and you should never sort of go, oh, the North Node is about my growth, without paying attention to the South Node and what you kind of take for granted as, you know, something that just comes instinctive to you. You need to get this dragon working together, otherwise the tail could wipe you out or the head could eat you. You don't want to be eaten by a dragon. So eclipses are chaotic. This is why I suggest people don't do magic at that time. Like the dragon's the one in control here. You know, you should just like, I guess, let the dragon do its thing and bide your time. So one little portion of the year that I wanted to flag is when the North Node Uranus and Mars are all together. So that 18 degrees of Taurus is a combustible flashpoint from late July into early August. So check around that 18-degree mark of those fixed signs again, and circle those dates on your calendar. It'll be a fun time. All right, the eclipses themselves. Here are the dates. You notice like sometimes eclipses come in threes, depending on, you know, how far away the moon is from the nodal axis and the sun. So this year we have two pairs of two. So we've got the 30th of April, an eclipse in Taurus, and then a solar eclipse in Taurus. And then the pair is the lunar eclipse mid-May. You can see that's a 2-week gap. Then we have a little bit of time off until the 25th 5th of October at that 2 degrees Scorpio, and then the follow-up lunar eclipse at 16 Taurus. And that'll be interesting because that 8th of November, remember I just talked about the 18-degree North Node Uranus Mars activity in early August. Like, that's pretty darn close, only 2 degrees off. So I think that story will come back to life in November. So yeah, as I mentioned, always a chaotic time. If you're looking at starting something new, eclipse time is not the time to do it. Just discovered I've been like racing through these. I think I'm going okay for time. I do worry about that sometimes. All right, so that's kind of like we've got 2 of the major kind of challenging portions of the year. We'll flip back to Mars in a little while, but let's just all go get a cocktail, hop on a cruise ship, and sail the merry seas with Jupiter. All right. Actually, does anybody have any questions? You can pop them in the chat. I will look at the chat right now. No, nobody's typing. Okay. Wish I could find where the waiting room was. Yeah. Not there. Oh, well. All right. So let's skip over to Jupiter. Now, I think it was the 29th of December. Jupiter came into Pisces, and it's been nice. It's given us a bit of relaxation, but and also relief, I think, because Jupiter in Pisces is very nice. Jupiter is a benefic planet, is to do with faith, belief, and spirituality. It's if you translate it into Indian, right, I don't know what they call the Indian language. It's guru. So Jupiter is a teacher. It's a benevolent teacher. It's not like Saturn with the big stick. And it's a high-minded planet. It upholds the values of truth and honor. It's optimistic and lucky, and will lift you beyond your current awareness, whether that's in tangible stuff like, like learning a course at university. It's higher learning, it's travel. You can learn a lot when you travel. It's also like religion and spirituality as well. So there's a massive opportunity for you with Jupiter's transit through Pisces to feed those areas of your life. Sure, Saturn, Uranus, the nodal axis are going to be continuing to do their thing, but this is an area that you can focus on to step away from all that. It doesn't stop the other stuff from happening and make everything, sunshine and rainbows. But this is really nice. So wherever you have Pisces in your chart, that is where you can find faith, hope, rest, like belief. So let's have a look at Jupiter in Pisces in a little more detail. So particularly in the first half of 2022, I'll give you some dates in a minute, but essentially from like now until May, this is where you will find the good stuff. So Jupiter in Pisces is really idealistic. It's really connected. Pisces is a water sign, and Jupiter brings people together. So forming emotional bonds and that sense of lifting each other up and helping people. There's also generosity here, not necessarily, giving your house away or, leaving things to your cat in your will. It's more about generosity of spirit, smiling at people, offering to, help somebody out, giving somebody the benefit of the doubt. You know, a lot of people are doing it tough, you know, everybody here included, I'm sure. But like, sometimes just throwing a little bit of understanding and forgiveness people's way, just, you know, avoids any sort of pitfalls of going, you're wrong, I'm right, you did this, you did that. Oh, my penny, woo, yes, got up. Sorry, I have to edit these weird little bits out. So this is where you can connect not just with the people around you, but also the spiritual beings around you. So however you connect with that spiritual world, you can build that relationship, that connectivity, that watery flow. So putting energy into your dreams, your magical practice, any meditation that you do, it's really going to, you know, open things up and bring a richness and benevolence into your life. So if you don't do stuff like that already, now is a really great time to get into it. Chances are there's already something going, come to the other world. And you should listen to that call, whether you work with plants or you enjoy hiking and you really sort of, you know, connect with something outside of yourself in nature. That's one way of doing it. A lot of people are into crystals and healing. That could be a pathway. Working with dream symbolism, playing music, like whatever makes your heart sing, that's the thing to chase with Jupiter in Pisces. There are some cautions if you go too far down this path, and there will be times, and we'll get to some transits where things could get a kind of tip over into the too much. Jupiter is very expansive, but he can also make people very over the top. So if you know, when you go to the other world, you need a pathway back. If you don't have that pathway back and remain tethered in the material world, you kind of pop over into the land of delusion and you lose touch with reality. And reality, you know, even though it's unpleasant at times, is still important. You've got bills to pay, and it's nice to have a roof over your head. I quite like it. It can also make you a bit lazy and indulgent. One of the things that Jupiter's into is, one of its significations is fat. So fatty food could be, you know, a weakness for you. And like, you know, that may have negative repercussions for your health or not. You know, it all depends on you as an individual. There's also the chance that through being generous to other people, that people can take advantage of you. So not everybody out there is super benevolent and wonderful. So like, depending on how this touches your chart, Jupiter always brings good stuff. But that doesn't mean that, you know, you almost get taken in by con artists, like, or that you won't almost get taken in by a con artist. But there will be benefits of knowing how to recognize that person later, you know, if you are in that situation again, or, you know, perhaps, you know, you carelessly lose your wallet, but the person that finds it returns it to you intact. Like, nobody wants to lose their wallet, but you can sort of be a bit sort of careless and absent-minded. You drop your wallet, but Jupiter in Pisces means that somebody honest picks it up. But, you know, you could see how that could go the other way. So, yeah, you do need to, you know, pay attention to the material world. Now, let's have a look at the transits. Now, at the start of the year, like usually, oops, let's pop back here. Right. So usually astrologers look for large, the aspects, major aspects between large planets. In 2022, the only major planetary aspects that perfect are Jupiter aspects. So Jupiter's nice. Jupiter brings good things. We all like good things. There's a sextile to Uranus on the 18th of February. That I think will kind of bring some growth and understanding around the changes that we need to make with that Jupiter-Saturn square. So Uranus is very idealistic, but Jupiter's so willing to collaborate and expand its philosophical views. So like there's a willingness to change one's thinking there, and also change how people sort of interact and cooperate. So the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in April, that first date, the 12th, is for the Americas and Europe, the 13th here in Australia and Asiatic time zones. This is like pure magic. So it's kind of captivating and enchanting, and it'll be like beautiful and amazing, but Neptune's really tricky. It you know, can lift you up to the most ecstatic, transcendental experiences, but they're kind of very fleeting, and you question yourself, is it real? Like it's real at the time, but trying to capture that magic and bring it home and use it, it just kind of like slips through your fingers, I guess. A bit like a dream, like, you know, you're asleep, you're having the dream, you wake up, and then you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And then you're like, damn it, I've forgotten it already. So that's the kind of energy that is happening at 23 degrees Pisces in April. Like it's a magical moment. And if you've been doing that spiritual work with Jupiter, and I think probably everybody here is, you know, engaged with the other worlds in some way, so is probably not likely to get too far out with it. I mean, you've all turned up at a specific place at a specific time, and, you know, that shows that you've like mastered the material world. It's fantastic. Yeah, so, but there is that possibility of getting lost, and maybe with the less spiritually aware people around you, they, you know, may have spiritual awakenings, potentially even spiritual crises. If somebody is, you know, kind of thrown into that world or like slips into that world very quickly, it can be distressing. That may potentially also be a thing with Jupiter square Pluto. But essentially, Jupiter is benevolent. So while I am giving you these cautions, like you can do great stuff with it. And I don't want to discourage you from using these really beautiful transits and ease, because we desperately need them. So with Jupiter square Pluto, that kind of promises growth through a plutonic catharsis. With Pluto in Capricorn, I don't know, I'm getting like a sense of something to do with like markets and wealth. You know, Pluto in Capricorn is the centralization and control of power. Jupiter in Pisces is very diffuse, particularly as it's just come off that really, you know, the dream vision of the conjunction with Neptune. Is like a sense of readiness to make changes. Jupiter's ready. Pluto will perhaps go, no, not yet. So just sort of watch that space. If you're looking to let go or make a sort of major spiritual leveling up, as they say, this could be used, you know, a productive, positive result of this square, particularly if you've got planets around 28 degrees of feminine signs, that's earth signs and water signs. That could be really nice for you as well. Okay, but Jupiter's flying. You'll see in May there, Jupiter moves into Aries. So we go from that more like dreamy, idealistic, mystical Jupiter to more of an I am God kind of thing. And yeah, you hear a bit of arrogance there. That is one of the pitfalls of Jupiter in Aries. So that transition happens in May. Jupiter will linger around 9 degrees of Aries in June. Like, you know, he just kind of pops in there and then he goes retrograde again. But it takes quite a while because he's moving slowly for him to get back into Pisces, where we get like, what, a few weeks there? Yeah, from late October to just before Christmas. Another little sequel of Jupiter in Pisces before Jupiter moves into Aries on a more permanent basis. So yeah, look at where you've got Pisces and Jupiter, and that is a lucky space for you in 2022. Jupiter's always lucky. And, you know, he's been in Saturn ruled signs for, what is it, like since, I don't know, what are we now, 2018? When Jupiter was in Sagittarius in 2019. 2020, then we, you know, had all the fun of Jupiter in Saturn ruled signs. So Jupiter coming out back into its home sign is like the end of that repression, that anchoring of that buoyant Jupiter energy. Things will get better and you will experience it primarily in whichever house whichever house Pisces and Aries is in your chart. Okay, but let's have a look at Jupiter in Aries, because it's quite different from Jupiter in Pisces. You go from mutable water to cardinal fire. It's like the last sign of the zodiac to the first sign of the zodiac. So it's endings and new beginnings. So Jupiter in Aries is just super enthusiastic. It encourages you to believe in yourself, to make your own magic, like you're the instigator. Aries is a Mars ruled sign, so it's get things started, like just do it energy. It's just throw yourself in there and give it a bash. It's also like, you know, gives you a willingness to take risks and stick your neck out a bit. It's got that bit of that Aries swagger and bravado. So if you can't see an opportunity, like the Aries side of things will make you, well, you know what? I reckon I could. And then it does it. So I've written that as the naive willingness to give it a go. It's kind of like Aries energy is like a baby learning to walk. They just kind of wake themselves up. They don't know what they're doing. They've never done it before, but, you know, they back themselves. They know that, you know, there's growth and, you know, on the other side of the challenge. So you challenge yourself, back yourself, and you get in there and do it. So that whole notion of I am God can lead to obviously the God complex. And this would be if Aries is a bit of a difficult area for you in your chart. We all have, like, you know, things that flow easily and wonderfully in our chart and that bring us, you know, the feel goods, and the others that are just like, oh, that makes me uncomfortable. I had a bad experience. Oh, I can never. So if that's activated here, that's when you tend to get the more negative manifestations. So be careful of arrogance. That can be like if Jupiter in Aries goes too far, and Jupiter does sometimes have that too much energy, it's very over the top, and like, yeah, you can go and just like throw too much of yourself into a situation. Also, too, reckless, risky behavior. If you're, I don't know, like a bungee jumper or something, or, you know, like you need to have that Saturnian side of things where you check your gear. Always check your gear when you're like, you know, halfway up a mountain and hanging by a thread. Don't cut corners. Aries can be impatient, so that reckless, risky behavior can have consequences, I should imagine. And taking on too much individually. Aries isn't a naturally cooperative sign. So, and Jupiter is so optimistic. It thinks it can do everything and be all things to all people, primarily in Aries, to satisfy that desire to, you know, max things out. But you can go too far. So like balancing that with, so you'll know if you tend to like bite off more than you can chew on a regular basis. And then you should be looking at those cautions. If you're more shy and retiring, you know, you could like believe in yourself and take a bit of a wild risk. So it's just knowing your chart, knowing yourself, and, you know, waiting in a way that test your edge, maybe puts you a little bit past it, takes you out of your comfort zone without pretending that there is an edge there at all. Okay, which brings us back to Mars. So like Jupiter is the planet to follow. You know, if life's tough at any stage in 2022, and you know it's going to be, it happens. Bringing yourself back to Jupiter, particularly in the start of the year when it's in Pisces, will help you out and, you know, put you in touch with additional resources that aren't in the tangible world. Jupiter in Aries will bring you back to that fire within, and that can also be an amazing resource for you to tap into with all that yada yada carnage too. I say can't, I don't actually mean carnage. That's just my saying, come to my slide. Here we go. So Mars, the warrior planet, look at that, giddy up. That's one of the symbols of masculinity, Mars's symbol. It's an assertive planet. It craves action. It doesn't like to sit around twiddling its thumbs. It likes to do things. It's an independent planet and thrives on its own individual identity. It's not naturally cooperative. It's courageous and it thrives in a competitive environment. So competition isn't always bad. You know, if you and a friend decide to, I don't know, like go walking or jogging, nobody wants to be the one that, like, you know, taps out first on your, you know, weekly 5K walk commitment. Like, it's, yeah, that sense of competitiveness that pushes you forward, that drives you towards the goal. Obviously, Mars has a downside. It is a malefic planet. It can bring anger and aggression and also conflict. So following Mars through, and I already highlighted those dates where he's dancing with the Saturn-Uranus square. So that is going to be a potential inflammatory point. Oh yeah, Mars is also inflammation. So if you have, you know, that tendency in your body, yeah, that can also flare up at times with the Mars unpleasantness with the Saturn and Uranus. So that's what Mars does. Like, challenge isn't bad. Like, a little bit of stress helps us get things done. It's motivating. You know, if everything's just brought to you on a platter, soon you're just, I don't know, swigging wine and, you know, eating grapes on a couch for perpetuity. It's not very purposeful. You know, it's nice, but it wouldn't be nice if you didn't have that contrast. And Mars is about contrast and difference. So you can work with Mars to push yourself beyond where you are, test yourself and see what you can do. So the Mars retrograde, this is a pretty big moment in the year. It's like, you know, moment, it's months and months and months. Mars is the rarest of retrogrades. So the outer planets, and I'm talking sort of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are all retrograde for half the year. So I focus on the stations of those planets when they change direction and concentrating their energy in one spot. But a Mars retrograde only happens about every couple of years. The last one was in Aquarius, so that was very cerebral. This one will also be in an air sign, Gemini. So there's an interesting dance between Mars and Jupiter here. Remember, Jupiter will be in Aries for, I don't know, about mid-year to, I guess, say, like southern spring, autumn, in fall in the northern hemisphere. So Mars rules Aries and Jupiter was in Aries. But just 2 days before this retrograde station of Mars, Jupiter goes back into Pisces. So it's like all that Aries oomph. It's like you were working up to something. It's like you cook something up, this amazing dream vision, like, you know, kind of slowly trickles down during Jupiter in Pisces, and then Jupiter in Aries. You're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm on. And then Mars retrograde starts, and you're like, no, I'm not. It's off. I'm going back to dreamland with Jupiter in Pisces. Mars retrograde is really tricky. Kind of that drive forward just leaves you. It's can be quite deflating energy wise, and because this will happen square to Neptune in Pisces, that kind of I'm thinking of like a balloon that's lost all its air. Gemini's an air sign, and it's just kind of like flaccid. Mars, you know, to, you know, use some very masculine metaphors, is erect. It's like a spear. It kind of goes for it. That's how it gets things done, by like aiming for something and like soaring it. You know, it's like a thrown spear aiming for a target. In Gemini, the pen is mightier than the sword, but those words can still cut. So with the retrograde of Mars in that conversational sign of Gemini, those unexpressed ideas, internal thoughts can cause a degree of harm. It's like you turn the spear or sword on yourself. So it could be that you're having like internal mental conflict, or a war of words with somebody else. The internet is probably going to be sort of, you know, very unpleasant in this period. Don't read the comments between October and January. They will just upset you. And, you know, you can get into kind of like a pointless battle of words that doesn't actually achieve anything. The thing with retrograde Mars, it's like kind of like, well, why am I involved in this conflict? Why do I like chase or pursue this idea? And that's what a retrograde is good for, reevaluating your, you know, priorities around that planet's themes. And Mars in Gemini is, yeah, words as weapons, like cutting through, like getting straight to the point. So I've written here that Mars in Gemini is like a hefty dose of coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like, you know, when you're in a situation and something unfolds and then you come home, or like, you know, and it's still bothering you a few days later, and you're like, oh gosh, you know, I should have done this. I should have said that. You know, oh, it's kind of like, I should have acted, like you're reviewing how you acted, and reviewing the lost opportunities, I guess, to confront and compete and win. Mars loves to win. So you can find yourself going over that event in your head. Maybe you like, you know, hash it out with friends in emails, or like you just kind of keep talking about something circularly, and it doesn't move it forward. So this would be a time to reflect, well, if I am telling those stories about my coulda, woulda, shouldas, is that good for my mental health, or can I just let that go? So there's likely to be a lot of empty tough talk, and maybe that tough talk's like directed at you, hence the coulda, woulda, shouldas. It's not great for diplomacy. You know, it's kind of like repressed anger. So it's like snubbing somebody off at a dinner party. Like, you know, you won't talk about the issue between you, but it just like hangs in the air and like ruins the social interaction. Gossip at this time will be quite destructive as well. So be careful about what you're telling or yelling at others. Oh, we've got somebody else back in the waiting room. Right. Yeah, so men in particular can become kind of, you know, defensive as well. And they don't kind of exert that positive, masculine, that assertive energy that we all carry within us, just kind of is a bit deflated and flat. So your desire to go out and do things, get things done, whether that's, taking the rubbish out, mowing the lawn, all those classic man jobs. I make my husband do them. That's why they're man jobs. I know many women do love to mow their own lawns. I don't. I've never, ever. One of my life goals is to never mow a lawn. That's just me. Lawnmowers terrify me. Anyway, that's a weird aside. We might move on from that. But you get a sense that things, won't move, like the hopes you had at the start of the year, the dreams you were looking to envision and take action on, kind of just go. That doesn't mean they're gone forever. That just means you need to kind of like clear out some mental clutter and maybe sort of, realign your approach to competition, self-talk, and things like that in your brain. All right. Right now, we have a Venus retrograde. That's with us until the end of January. At the moment, we're at the halfway point with Venus coming to the sun. The same thing happens pretty much every retrograde of the inner planets. When the planet conjoins the sun, that always marks the halfway point. So if you kind of look at a chart, or you see like Mercury retrogrades, when the conjunction between the retrograde planet comes back to the sun, it's a moment of purification and clarity relating to the planetary issues themselves. Now, even though the Venus retrograde ends on the 29th of January, she is still deep in Capricorn territory, and Pluto's there, Saturn's there, Mars is, where is Mars? Mars is hanging out there too. They're kind of like not very sympathetic. Like Venus would much rather hang out with Saturn, would hang out with the sun and Jupiter, and maybe even Mercury, depending on the day. Mercury is adaptable, and we'll talk to Venus in a way that Venus appreciates. Venus appreciates wit, so we'll happily talk to Mercury, and actually Mercury is going retrograde as well too. So maybe Venus won't want to talk to Mercury in the next few weeks. So it's not. Venus is out of sorts. She's surrounded by like harshness and limitation. Venus likes comfort, togetherness, everybody to be pleasant and have a nice time. It's kind of hard to have a nice time in the underworld, in the sort of, dark dungeons of Pluto, the limitations of Saturn in Aquarius. It's, kind of continues to be tough for relationships. And I think probably, a lot of us, having been through, the holiday period, and now with this, terrible ongoing situation with the panic, a lot of our relationships have been constrained. Like, there's difficult conversations that we need to have with people. Some people are really stressed out and struggle to kind of, have that kind of openness and, straightforwardness around these difficult topics. That is very Venusian. It's like, we don't talk about that. It's like, well, we don't talk about the salary. We don't talk about religion or politics at these things. But those things are always there. And Venus kind of, at the moment, she's got to find her way through all these difficulties. And, Saturn brings difficulty. Pluto brings, confrontation with the dark abyss. Mars brings conflict. Even though Venus has got a soft spot for Mars, it is treacherous, and it's going to continue to be kind of socially difficult. Venus is very much a social planet right up until April. And that, I don't know, I find vaguely horrifying, but, we'll all get through it. We've done Venus retrogrades before. So from that 5th of April to the 2nd of May, that is the time to like dive in, get your hair done, recline with a book, eat the grapes and drink the wine, like do all the Venus things, do whatever makes you feel good, sing, grow flowers. And I would encourage you to, if you do magical working and you make talismans and things, capture a little bit of that magic in a special oil or, a pendant or something. I don't know, buy yourself a silk scarf. You really, really want to like capture that Venus in Pisces magic, because it's going to be really quite tricky, and we're all going to be starved for Venusian goodness. Like it's just so awkward for Venus at the moment, and like the awkwardness, while it alleviates from the end of this month, it kind of continues for quite a while yet, and then the real sweet spot, and this is like the sweet spot, there are no further sweet spots. Venus, when she gets to Taurus, when does she go into Taurus? Hang on, I just want to check that. So Venus is in Taurus from late May to mid-June. Oh, hang on, no, that's late May to, yeah, roughly. But remember, we've got Uranus and the hungry head of the dragon in Taurus as well. So you get like eclipses. So Venus really just wants to relax, but she's like, oh my gosh, there are landmines in my beautiful, natural garden. Like, who put those there? And so she finds it really hard to relax when she's in Taurus this year. Even when she's in Libra, she's got that square to Pluto to deal with. Actually, where's Libra? Oh, yeah, in October, it's eclipse season as well. So like really, for any Venus stuff, like if you're thinking of like completely changing your hair, do it in April pretty much. If you're wanting to, I don't know, like just do nice things for yourself. Like this is your window, the window. So I don't know, Venus kind of, starts the year with her ass being kicked, and other than this like kind of little window in April, May, she continues to like go. Ugh. So pretty much it's a miserable year for Venusian things. If you're a jeweler, you could, or like a chocolate maker, I don't know, Venus loves sugar, so sweet treats in April. I don't know when Easter is this year, but like really just like soak up that goodness, capture a little bit, and carry it through. Actually, I don't know if you can see my beads today. These are Mercury beads, supposedly to help me with my eloquence, but I did choose a time with Neptune rising this morning. So this was always going to be a bit unstructured. But yeah, I've also got Venus beads and like a Venus elixir. So like this would be a great time to procure or make yourself something along those lines to help you out with feeling good in 2022. Like, if you can't sort of grab it in the skies, find it here on Earth. So yeah, that is a key portion of the year ahead. Now, I'm going to do a bit of a sales spiel. Lucky you. No, it's I'm just going to tell you about my monthly thing that I'm going to start in the Cosmic Cauldron. Like I've just kind of flown through the year at quite a high level, but hopefully giving you some grabs to pinpoint. If you want to kind of check in on, what's happening in the skies on a more regular basis, follow the moon could be something that you're interested in joining with. I'm going to do like a recorded thing, kind of like like this, take a snapshot of the new moon that you can have a listen to once a month, and present some ways of working with that new moon. Could be journal prompts, meditation, spell work of the kind that I've alluded to today. There's going to be a sharing circle, but that won't be recorded. So depending on the makeup of the group, like time zone wise, we'll sort of make that hopefully at a time that pleases most of the participants. And even if you can't get to the sharing circle, or you're just like, oh gosh, I don't feel like peopling today, there's going to be a private discussion group, and that will just show up in your Cosmic Cauldron feed. The easiest way to get there is through kimfairminer.com events. I've cut the price because it's like a new thing by $50, I think. Yeah, so that's like, I don't know, what's that, 20% discount at the moment. And that's just to sort of get things started. And over time, I feel I'll expand this to encompass the full moon as well, but it will just depend on people's needs. And also, I'd like to add another sharing circle sort of associated with the full moon as well. But, we need to get some numbers, see what people are interested in, and it will really help you learn more about astrology by actually following it and working with it. So yeah, if you kind of want to chat more astro with me in a monthly check-in, it's going to be at a special price, I think, until the next full moon, which is, where are we now? Oh, it's about like a week or so away. No, the full moon's on the 18th. So yeah, whatever today is, that's how long the special will be up, and then it will be back to its normal price. Okay, I am sick of the sound of my own voice. So I'm going to go to the chat box. Oh, thanks, Jennifer, for those Easter dates. Yeah, so Easter in Australia is the 15th to 18th. Those dates might shift a little bit in your, thanks for liking my voice, Amber. I appreciate that. Yeah, so like Easter would be a time to soak up all the bunnies, all the chocolate, good times with friends and family, and just, like have a frigging amazing, beautiful time. I'm going to stop the share. Will I be emailing a recording? A couple of people, Beck, have asked me for the recording. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it. I might chop it up and sort of drip it out through the year, because it's like a big whole thing. Or maybe I could put it in the Cosmic Cauldron. I don't know. Just, leave it with me. What else have we got here? All right, so talked about fixed signs. Okay, so Deb says, Jupiter will trine my natal Uranus, natal moon, natal sun in a run between now until early March. That'll be interesting. I think that'll be good for you. A trine aspect is between planets that are in the same element. So with Jupiter in Pisces, that's activating trines to any planets or points in Scorpio and Cancer. So those water planets and Pisces, obviously, of course, that creates ease between those houses. So it's not just happening in Pisces, it's also, flowing that goodness out into other areas of your chart. Can't stress enough to make the most of that Jupiter in Pisces goodness. Oh, and Kylie's got an Aries sun and lots of fire. I've got a bit of fire myself, Kylie. Jupiter in Aries is going to be good for us, actually. Just to, don't want to brag, but I'm Pisces rising and my Jupiter is in Aries. So I'm like, ding, ding, win both ways. If I have the recording, I'm definitely cutting out that bit. All right. So, Venus retrograde is been noticed by Amber. Yes, don't get a hair. Well, you can get a haircut, but yeah, it might be not the haircut of your dreams. Did you want to tell us your haircut story, Amber? Don't get a tattoo either. Like, that's even worse than a haircut. At least hair grows. Oh, and Deb's in the thick of it. Deborah Hatton with Venus stationing direct on your midheaven. Well, change of career direction. Some rumblings there. Yeah. Nobody has to share it. It's not compulsory. All right. Okay. So Maria said the eclipses are all on my Scorpio, on my Taurus North Node and Scorpio South Node. So you've got your nodal return, Maria. With like everybody's got nodes somewhere in their chart. Maria's North Node's at 11 degrees Taurus. So yeah, this is a point of realignment for you because the transiting North Node's coming back to your North Node. So ensuring that it could make your North Node more hungry for, those Taurian goodies, that stability and reliability and security. And if that's sort of been something that's missing and, Uranus is pretty close to there as well, like there's a lot of questioning and like, you want the stability, but you're just not getting it. And how you kind of sit with that and navigate that probably through technology and innovation. I'd be looking at getting some new novel things into your life, just, to try and extract the helpful side of Uranus there. Oh, okay. Amber did not cut her hair during the Venus retrograde. But yeah, it is a bad time to change your appearance. So hold off until the end of January. And, if you want a truly fabulous do, hold off until April. That's a long time for those of us that color our hair, though. I think, for kind of maintenance activity, as long as you're not having a drastic, change. Like if you're blonde, stay blonde. But if you're like, I'm going to shave here and get a green mohawk and do something really wild and wacky, you probably won't have the same relationship to that haircut once Venus is direct. Okay, Chanel has Taurus in her 10th house and Scorpio in the 4th. Okay, this is a big time for you with your career, Janelle. Things are changing. Uranus always brings change and that North Node. So we'll be looking to make progress there. So yeah, try a few things. Innovate, technology, all those good Uranus things. All right. Amber says the Farmer's Almanac has suggestions for when to get a trim for growth and non-growth. Yeah, that is generally related to the cycles of the moon. I think the Farmer's Almanac is very popular in North America. Here in Australia, we have the big poster by the guy that lives in the Gold Coast hinterland. It's a big wheel. It usually has the sun in the middle. So if you're looking for haircut dates and you have that calendar, look at the dates for planting leafy greens, because they're like the hair of plants. And generally that is the best time to cut your hair for growth. If you want less hair or you want your hair to grow slowly or, depilatory stuff, that's more of a dark moon activity when growth is in retreat. So yeah, those are fun dates to watch. The thing with eclipses is I think, I'm probably a bit, I tiptoe around them because humans generally like comfort. We like to have enough food. We like to have enough sleep. We like a nice balance between rain and sunshine. I think I've seen that internet meme about how we're very delicate, high maintenance houseplants. We get upset if things aren't exactly to our liking. We have strong preferences. And we like it when those needs and wants are met. And when they're not, our leaves droop and, we get the sulks and, our fingers dry up and we get cranky. An eclipse is like, I guess, moving a houseplant or going on holidays. What I do with my houseplants is I tend to put them in like the bath. They generally like the humidity of the bath, and they all hang out together in the bath if I go away for a week. So that is like a move, like a sudden change in conditions. When I renovated my house, I moved my plants to my friend's house while that was happening. And, it's kind of like an adapt or die situation. It's not that drastic with eclipses, but if you think of yourself, well, these new conditions, they don't suit my needs. I prefer the old way, but it's too late because you've been shot through that eclipse portal. It's kind of fated and outside of your control often, because remember, the dragon is in control at eclipses. And that's why I sort of say, well, no, don't try and do magic, because your will is subservient, like it's inferior, I guess. I'm not finding the right word, to the dragon. You're not going to boss the dragon around, so don't even try. Just like go, well, I see a dragon, I'm just going to hide out, or I'm going to take the long way around, or if you knock over my house, well, I have to rebuild it. Janelle says she's relocated from the city to the beach on the 23rd of December, and she's sharing with her daughter and grandson. That will be interesting, a multi-generation household. I see you nodding there, Janelle. That's I like this for the kind of Capricorn. Capricorn's very kind of like traditional. I think, the natural way that humans lived before the nuclear family came along in the 1950s, we did tend to live in multi-generational households rather than that kind of mum, dad, kids kind of fantasy. So yeah, readapting to that for your daughter and your grandson and for you. Somebody else I know has done that. So that, I think, is a bit of a theme, particularly as we just had that new moon in Capricorn as well. What the moon does is it like kind of highlights, and because the moon orbits the Earth rather than the other planets that orbit the sun, the moon kind of anchors things and makes it real. That's why I really enjoy working with the moon, because it brings that kind of, I don't know, in a way, impersonal, spiritually oriented, and by spiritual sun, the planets go around the sun, and whereas like we're here, we're on Earth, and the moon mediates that energy for us. So I don't know if you noticed a shift with that new moon in early January, perhaps, where you're like, right, well, this is what we're going to do. And you kind of like really felt the changes of that Venus retrograde, anchoring and, starting off with a fresh perspective. Okay, Soa says that she's got Saturn in Pisces. Boundaries seem to me like a bit of a paradox. Yeah, they are. And particularly because Neptune's been moving through Pisces, chances are it has passed your Saturn, unless it's in very late degrees. I think Jupiter will bring a bit of help in that area. Boundaries, yeah, they're important. Saturn loves boundaries. And also too, you've got the relationship between what's happening in Capricorn to Capricorn's in a sextile relationship to the planets in Pisces. And that should help and support and get some clarity on any boundary issues that may be playing out for you at this time. So okay, so we are getting to the end. I'll take one more question or random discovery. I don't know, comments welcome as well. Thank you all for coming. I wasn't sure how this was going to go, because usually I, have people sitting in a circle and we're sort of all free to chat like a little bit more. I'm liking this chat a bit more than listening to the sound of my own voice rant on in vaguely time-panicked fashion earlier. Thank you, Amber. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I know it's evening for you. We've got a nice mix. And actually, can you tell me where you're from? I know there's a few Aussies and a few people in Canada and the United States here. Oh, okay, Amber, so not too late for you. Melbourne, Beck's in Melbourne. Oh, Janelle, you're up at Tin Can Bay. That is a nice spot. Tambourine, Brisbane. Oh, okay, what was that? Jennifer, I'm looking, please, for a starting point of understanding astrology more. Follow the moon could be great for you, Jennifer. It's kind of like bite-sized and it steps you through on a monthly basis. So you kind of like build things gradually. I find learning astrology is like learning a language, and just, I'm going to have a brag moment again. I just did 100 days straight on Duolingo learning Spanish today. So high five to me. But yeah, it's through consistent application and engagement with the language, whether that's Spanish or astrology. Oh yeah, Duolingo's the bomb. Okay. Oh, no worries, Tara. I am glad you found the information useful. Kyogle. Is that New South Wales, Penny? Oh gosh, I've forgotten where it is. Maria's nodding. It's in New South Wales. Look, there's another Tin Can Bay connection. Yeah. Oh, Tara, hit me up. Message me in the group, and yeah, anybody on Duolingo, I'm always after friends on Duolingo. It's that Aries competitiveness in me. Leanne, you've got your Jupiter transit coming up to your Pisces sun. Oh, and a stellium there too. That will be good times for you. Definitely make the most of that first half of the year. How do I friend people on Duo? I'm not sure. Let's start a chat about that in the group. I'll do a post and I'll find out who's on Duolingo, and then we can all yeah, get on that. Okay, people, so glad that you came and kept me company on a Sunday morning and you got some benefit out of this session. Yeah, if you've got any questions, chuck them up in the Cosmic Cauldron group. Happy to sort of, you know, chat and follow up there, and maybe throw those ideas out to the people that weren't able to join us today. And yeah, if you're wanting to get like a little bit more specific and follow things through the year, check out Follow the Moon. Thank you all for coming. I'm gonna can you unmute yourselves and just so I can hear you all say goodbye? That'd be really nice.
Thanks, Kim. Goodbye.
Thanks,
Have a good
Kim.
night. I mean, day.
People.
Thank you,
Thank
Kim.
you.
Thank you, everyone
Under
from
the chat
around the
box
world.
before.
Thanks, Kim.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Have an awesome Sunday or Saturday
Have a good
night.
weekend.
If you're in the States, probably a few of you will be hungry. I suspect Amber's looking at Amber Pizza Witch. I will see you all in the Cosmic Cauldron. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Kim.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.